Question 1. The audit findings indicate that a significant portion of sensitive customer data was migrated to a new cloud environment without a prior comprehensive assessment of its potential impact on data security, regulatory compliance, and operational continuity. Which of the following approaches best addresses this finding and aligns with professional best practices for on-premise and cloud solutions? Option A. Conduct a post-migration impact assessment to identify and remediate any discovered security and compliance gaps. Option B. Prioritize the development and implementation of a comprehensive pre-migration impact assessment process for all future cloud initiatives. Option C. Immediately halt all further cloud migration activities until a thorough pre-migration impact assessment framework is developed and implemented. Option D. Initiate a detailed impact assessment focused on the specific cloud services utilized and the data types migrated to inform immediate remediation efforts. The correct answer is A. Conduct a post-migration impact assessment to identify and remediate any discovered security and compliance gaps. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent tension between rapid cloud adoption and the need for robust security and compliance. The audit findings highlight a potential gap in understanding the implications of migrating sensitive data to a new cloud environment without a thorough impact assessment. This requires careful judgment to balance business agility with regulatory adherence and risk mitigation. The complexity arises from the interconnectedness of on-premise and cloud solutions, where changes in one can have cascading effects on the other, especially concerning data sovereignty and privacy. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves conducting a comprehensive impact assessment prior to migration. This aligns with best professional practices and regulatory expectations for data protection and risk management. A detailed impact assessment would identify all affected systems, data types, and compliance requirements, e.g., data residency, access controls, encryption standards, relevant to the chosen cloud provider's jurisdiction. It ensures that the migration plan addresses potential security vulnerabilities, operational disruption, and legal obligations proactively. This approach demonstrates due diligence and a commitment to maintaining a secure and compliant posture, thereby minimizing the risk of regulatory breaches and data compromise. Incorrect approaches analysis. Proceeding with migration without a formal impact assessment represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure. It bypasses critical risk identification and mitigation steps, potentially leading to non-compliance with data protection laws and industry-specific regulations. This could result in severe penalties, reputational damage, and loss of customer trust. Focusing solely on cost savings during migration, without considering the security and compliance implications, is another regulatory and ethical failure. Cost efficiency is important. It should not supersede the fundamental requirements of data security and privacy. This oversight can lead to the migration of sensitive data to an environment that is not adequately protected or compliant, exposing the organization to significant risks. Relying on the cloud provider's default security settings without independent verification is also a professional and ethical lapse. While cloud providers offer robust security, their default configurations may not align with an organization's specific compliance needs or risk appetite. This assumption can create security blind spots and lead to non-compliance, as the organization remains ultimately responsible for the security and compliance of its data in the cloud. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a risk-based approach to cloud migration. This involves a structured process that begins with understanding the business objectives and then systematically identifying and evaluating potential risks. A critical step is to perform a thorough impact assessment that considers technical, operational, security, and regulatory aspects. This assessment should inform the migration strategy, ensuring that appropriate controls and safeguards are implemented. Regular reviews and updates to security and compliance measures are essential throughout the lifecycle of cloud deployments. Professionals must prioritize a proactive stance, engaging with legal, compliance, and security teams early in the planning process to ensure all requirements are met. Question 2. Operational review demonstrates that several cloud-based storage buckets hosting sensitive customer data have been inadvertently configured with public read access across multiple cloud providers. This oversight was discovered during a routine audit, and there is immediate pressure from the compliance department to rectify the situation before the next regulatory reporting deadline. Option A. Implement a temporary firewall rule to block all external access to the affected storage buckets, and schedule a comprehensive review of all cloud storage policies for a future project. Option B. Immediately revoke public read access for all identified storage buckets, then conduct a detailed audit of all other cloud storage configurations to identify similar issues, prioritizing remediation based on data sensitivity and potential impact. Option C. Revert all cloud storage configurations to their default secure settings across all cloud providers, and then investigate the root cause of the misconfigurations. Option D. Inform the compliance department that the issue will be addressed in the next scheduled security patching cycle, as current resources are fully allocated to critical business operations. The correct answer is B. Immediately revoke public read access for all identified storage buckets, then conduct a detailed audit of all other cloud storage configurations to identify similar issues, prioritizing remediation based on data sensitivity and potential impact. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in cloud adoption, balancing the desire for rapid deployment and cost optimization with the imperative to maintain robust security and compliance. The pressure to deliver new services quickly can lead to overlooking critical security configurations, especially in a multi-cloud environment where oversight can be fragmented. The professional challenge lies in identifying and rectifying these misconfigurations without disrupting ongoing operations or incurring excessive delays, all while adhering to the specific regulatory framework governing the organization's data and services. The complexity is amplified by the need to understand the nuances of both on-premise and cloud security controls and how they interact. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic, risk-based remediation strategy. This aligns with best practices for cloud security and compliance, emphasizing proactive identification and mitigation of vulnerabilities. By prioritizing remediation based on the criticality of the data or service and the severity of the misconfiguration, IT professionals ensure that the most significant risks are addressed first. This approach minimizes the potential for data breaches or compliance violations, thereby protecting the organization's reputation and financial standing. It also demonstrates due diligence and adherence to the principles of least privilege and defense in depth, which are foundational to secure IT operations. This methodical process is crucial for maintaining an auditable trail of security efforts, which is often a regulatory requirement. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach is to immediately revert all configurations to a known secure baseline without assessing the impact. This can lead to significant service disruptions, impacting business operations and potentially violating service-level agreements, SLAs. It also fails to acknowledge that not all misconfigurations carry the same level of risk, leading to inefficient use of resources. From a regulatory perspective, such a blunt approach might be seen as reactive rather than proactive, and could indicate a lack of understanding of the specific risks associated with each misconfiguration. Another incorrect approach is to address only the misconfigurations that are easiest to fix or that are most visible, ignoring those that are more complex or deeply embedded. This creates a false sense of security and leaves critical vulnerabilities unaddressed. This approach is ethically questionable as it prioritizes superficial fixes over genuine security, potentially exposing the organization to significant harm. It also fails to meet the spirit of regulatory compliance, which demands a comprehensive approach to security. A third incorrect approach is to defer all remediation to a future project, citing current workload pressures. This is a direct abdication of responsibility for security and compliance. It creates a ticking time bomb, increasing the likelihood of a security incident or audit failure. This approach is a clear violation of professional ethics and likely contravenes regulatory mandates that require ongoing security management and risk mitigation. Professional reasoning. Professionals should employ a structured decision-making framework that begins with a thorough understanding of the organization's risk appetite and regulatory obligations. This involves 1. Comprehensive assessment. Identify all misconfigurations and categorize them by risk level, considering data sensitivity, service criticality, and potential impact of exploitation. 2. Prioritization. Rank remediation efforts based on the risk assessment, focusing on high-risk items first. 3. Impact analysis. For each remediation action, assess potential operational impact and plan mitigation strategies. 4. Implementation. Execute remediation in a controlled manner, with rollback plans. 5. Verification. Confirm that the misconfiguration has been resolved and that the fix has not introduced new issues. 6. Documentation. Maintain detailed records of all assessments, decisions, and remediation actions for audit and continuous improvement. This iterative process ensures that security and compliance are integrated into operational workflows, rather than being an afterthought. Question 3. The monitoring system demonstrates the inadvertent capture of sensitive personal data within network traffic logs. As the network administrator, you have identified this issue. What is the most appropriate course of action to ethically and legally address this situation? Option A. Continue monitoring as usual, assuming the data is not being actively misused, and address it only if a specific complaint arises. Option B. Immediately delete all captured sensitive data without further investigation or consultation to protect user privacy. Option C. Inform immediate IT management and instruct them to adjust logging levels without involving legal or compliance departments. Option D. Immediately cease the collection of sensitive personal data. Review and update monitoring policies and configurations to prevent future occurrences, and consult with legal and compliance teams. Correct answer is D. Immediately cease the collection of sensitive personal data, review and update monitoring policies and configurations to prevent future occurrences, and consult with legal and compliance teams. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the potential conflict between maintaining network security and respecting user privacy. The discovery of sensitive personal data within network traffic logs, even if inadvertently captured, raises ethical and potentially legal concerns. The network administrator must balance the need for security monitoring with the obligation to protect private information, requiring careful judgment and adherence to established policies and regulations. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves immediately ceasing the collection of sensitive personal data, reviewing and updating the monitoring policies and configurations to prevent future occurrences, and consulting with legal and compliance teams. This represents best professional practice because it prioritizes data privacy and regulatory compliance. By taking prompt action to stop the data capture and seeking expert guidance, the administrator demonstrates a commitment to ethical data handling and adherence to relevant privacy laws, such as those governing data protection and lawful interception, ensuring that network monitoring activities remain within legal and ethical boundaries. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach is to ignore the discovery and continue monitoring as usual, assuming the data is not actively being misused. This is professionally unacceptable, as it disregards potential privacy violations and regulatory noncompliance. It fails to address a known issue that could lead to significant legal repercussions and reputational damage. Another incorrect approach is to immediately delete all captured sensitive data without proper documentation or consultation. While seemingly protective of privacy, this action can hinder investigations into potential security breaches or policy violations and may violate data retention requirements mandated by regulations. It bypasses necessary due diligence and legal review processes. A third incorrect approach is to only inform immediate IT management without involving legal or compliance departments. This is insufficient because privacy and data protection are often governed by specific legal frameworks that require expert interpretation. Without involving legal and compliance, the organization risks making decisions that are not fully compliant with all applicable laws and regulations. Professional reasoning. Professionals facing such dilemmas should follow a structured decision-making process. First, they must identify and understand the nature of the issue, including any potential legal or ethical implications. Second, they should consult relevant internal policies, procedures, and external regulations. Third, they must seek guidance from appropriate stakeholders, such as legal counsel, compliance officers, and senior management. Fourth, they should implement a solution that balances competing interests, prioritizing compliance and ethical conduct. Finally, they must document all actions taken and ensure that preventative measures are in place to avoid recurrence. Question 4. Assessment of the most effective strategy for maintaining consistent data security and regulatory compliance across a hybrid cloud environment, where sensitive customer data is processed both on-premise and on a public cloud platform. Option A. prioritizing the speed of cloud adoption by migrating existing on-premise security models without adaptation to the cloud environment. Option B, applying distinct security policies and controls independently to on-premise infrastructure and public cloud services. Option C, implementing a unified security and compliance framework that integrates on-premise and cloud security controls through a central management system. Option D, relying solely on the default security configurations provided by the public cloud service provider without further customization or integration. The correct answer is C, implementing a unified security and compliance framework that integrates on-premise and cloud security controls through a central management system. Explanation: scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in hybrid cloud environments where an organization leverages both on-premise infrastructure and public cloud services. The core difficulty lies in ensuring consistent security posture and compliance across these disparate environments, especially when dealing with sensitive data. The need to balance agility and innovation offered by the cloud with the stringent regulatory requirements applicable to on-premise data handling creates inherent complexity. Professionals must navigate differing security controls, data residency laws, and audit trails, demanding a nuanced understanding of both technologies and their respective compliance landscapes. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves implementing a unified security and compliance framework that spans both on-premise and cloud environments. This best practice leverages a combination of cloud-native security tools and on-premise security solutions, integrated through a central management plane or policy engine. This ensures that security policies, access controls, and data protection measures are consistently applied, regardless of where the data resides or is processed. This approach aligns with regulatory expectations for data protection and privacy, such as those mandated by GDPR or similar frameworks, by providing a comprehensive view of the security posture and enabling unified auditing and reporting. It demonstrates due diligence in safeguarding sensitive information and maintaining operational integrity. Incorrect approach is analysis. One incorrect approach is to treat on-premise and cloud security as entirely separate concerns, applying distinct sets of policies and controls. This leads to security gaps and compliance inconsistencies, as data moving between environments may not be adequately protected. This failure can result in regulatory violations, such as breaches of data privacy laws, due to inadequate controls on cloud-hosted data or non-compliance with data residency requirements. Another incorrect approach is to solely rely on the default security configurations provided by the cloud service provider without customization or integration with existing on-premise security measures. While cloud providers offer robust security features, they are often designed for a broad range of use cases. Without tailoring these to specific organizational needs and regulatory obligations, sensitive data may be exposed to undue risk. This can lead to non-compliance with industry-specific regulations or internal security policies, creating a false sense of security. A third incorrect approach is to prioritize cloud adoption speed over security and compliance integration. This often results in a lift and shift of existing on-premise security models without adapting them to the cloud's unique architecture and threat landscape. This can lead to misconfigurations, overlooked vulnerabilities, and a failure to leverage cloud-specific security benefits, ultimately increasing the risk of security incidents and regulatory penalties. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a risk-based approach, starting with a thorough assessment of data sensitivity and regulatory requirements applicable to both on-premise and cloud deployments. The decision-making process should prioritize the implementation of a unified security strategy that enforces consistent policies and controls across the hybrid environment. This involves selecting appropriate security technologies and integrating them into a cohesive management framework. Regular audits, continuous monitoring, and a proactive approach to vulnerability management are crucial to maintaining compliance and mitigating risks in a dynamic hybrid cloud landscape. Question 5. Comparative studies suggest that organizations often prioritize speed to market when adopting new cloud solutions. Considering a US-based financial services firm looking to leverage cloud-based analytics for customer insights, which of the following approaches to risk assessment best aligns with regulatory expectations and professional best practices for managing potential data security and compliance risks? Option A. Focus primarily on negotiating the lowest cost for cloud services, with a secondary, informal review of the provider's basic security certifications. Option B. Delegate the entire risk assessment process to the cloud service provider, trusting their internal processes and documentation without independent verification. Option C. Proceed with cloud migration immediately to gain a competitive advantage, assuming the cloud provider's security measures are sufficient and will cover all compliance requirements. Option D. Conduct a comprehensive risk assessment that identifies potential threats, vulnerabilities, and impacts specific to the chosen cloud services and the sensitive financial data being processed, and use these findings to inform security control implementation and vendor selection. The correct answer is D. Conduct a comprehensive risk assessment that identifies potential threats, vulnerabilities, and impacts specific to the chosen cloud services and the sensitive financial data being processed, and use these findings to inform security control implementation and vendor selection. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent tension between rapid cloud adoption for business agility and the need for robust risk assessment to ensure compliance and security. The organization is attempting to leverage cloud solutions without a foundational understanding of the potential risks introduced by this shift, particularly concerning data residency and regulatory adherence. Careful judgment is required to balance innovation with due diligence. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a systematic and comprehensive risk assessment before full cloud deployment. This aligns with general cybersecurity best practices and regulatory expectations that organizations understand their threat landscape and implement appropriate controls. Specifically, for a U.S.-based organization operating under frameworks like NIST or CMMC, if applicable to their sector, a thorough risk assessment is a prerequisite for establishing an effective security program. It ensures that potential vulnerabilities, threats, and impacts are identified and addressed proactively, leading to a more secure and compliant cloud environment. This approach demonstrates a commitment to responsible technology adoption and risk management, which is ethically sound and professionally expected. An incorrect approach that involves proceeding with cloud migration without a formal risk assessment fails to meet regulatory expectations for due diligence. In the U.S., regulations like HIPAA for healthcare or PCI DSS for payment card data mandate risk assessments to identify and mitigate vulnerabilities. Skipping this step can lead to significant data breaches, regulatory fines, and reputational damage. Another incorrect approach, focusing solely on cost savings without considering security implications, ignores the fundamental responsibility to protect sensitive data. This can result in noncompliance with data privacy laws such as the California Consumer Privacy Act, CCPA, which requires organizations to implement reasonable security measures. A third incorrect approach, relying on vendor assurances without independent verification, outsources critical risk management responsibilities. While vendor due diligence is important, the ultimate responsibility for data protection and compliance rests with the organization itself, and a failure to independently validate security controls can lead to regulatory penalties. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with understanding the regulatory landscape relevant to their organization's data and operations. This involves identifying applicable laws and standards, e.g., NIST, CMMC, HIPAA, CCPA, GDPR if dealing with EU citizen data. Next, a comprehensive risk assessment methodology should be adopted, which includes asset identification, threat modeling, vulnerability analysis, and impact assessment. This assessment should inform the selection of cloud services and the implementation of appropriate security controls. Finally, continuous monitoring and periodic reassessment are crucial to adapt to evolving threats and regulatory changes. Question 6. Market research demonstrates a growing demand for advanced network segmentation capabilities to enhance security posture. A vendor approaches your organization, claiming their proprietary, soon-to-be-released solution offers unparalleled performance and ease of deployment for microsegmentation. They offer your team exclusive early access and significant discounts if you commit to a purchase order within the next 2 weeks before the product's official launch. Your manager is eager to be at the forefront of this technology and has indicated a strong preference for accepting the vendor's offer to secure these benefits. You, as the network engineer responsible for evaluating and implementing such solutions, have concerns about the lack of independent reviews, the potential for vendor lock-in, and the absence of a formal proof-of-concept phase. What is the most professionally responsible course of action? Option A. Lightly decline the vendor's offer for early access and discounts, and instead initiate a formal evaluation process for micro-segmentation solutions, including a request for proposals RFP and a structured proof-of-concept POC with multiple vendors to ensure the best fit for the organization's needs and security requirements. Option B. Agree to a limited, informal trial of the vendor's solution without a formal contract or defined success metrics, hoping to gather enough information to make a decision later, while also exploring other options in parallel. Option C. Inform the vendor that while the technology is interesting, your organization cannot commit to a purchase without a fully developed and publicly available product, and suggest they re-engage once it has undergone independent testing and market validation. Option D. Accept the vendor's offer for early access and the associated discounts, prioritizing the manager's enthusiasm and the potential for cost savings, and begin immediate implementation to gain a competitive advantage. The correct answer is A. Politely decline the vendor's offer for early access and discounts, and instead initiate a formal evaluation process for micro-segmentation solutions, including a request for proposals RFP and a structured proof-of-concept POC with multiple vendors to ensure the best fit for the organization's needs and security requirements. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge rooted in the potential conflict between a vendor's aggressive sales tactics and a network engineer's responsibility to select solutions based on technical merit and organizational needs. The engineer is pressured to adopt a new technology that, while potentially beneficial, has not undergone thorough evaluation and may not be the most suitable or cost-effective option. This situation requires careful judgment to balance vendor relationships with the fiduciary duty to the employer and adherence to ethical procurement practices. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a structured, evidence-based evaluation process. This aligns with best professional practices by prioritizing objective technical assessment, risk mitigation, and alignment with organizational strategy. Specifically, it upholds ethical principles of integrity and objectivity by refusing to be swayed by undue influence or unsubstantiated claims. It also adheres to sound IT governance principles, which mandate due diligence in technology adoption to ensure investments are justified, secure, and meet business requirements. This approach ensures that any technology deployed is rigorously tested, meets security standards, and provides demonstrable value, thereby protecting the organization from potential technical debt, security vulnerabilities, and financial waste. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves immediately accepting the vendor's proposal due to the perceived pressure and the promise of early access to cutting-edge technology. This fails to uphold professional integrity and objectivity. It bypasses essential due diligence, potentially leading to the adoption of a solution that is immature, insecure, or incompatible with existing infrastructure. This can result in significant financial losses, operational disruption, and security breaches, all of which are ethically and professionally unacceptable. Another incorrect approach is to dismiss the vendor's offering outright without any form of evaluation, perhaps due to a prior negative experience or a general distrust of new technologies. While caution is warranted, outright dismissal without investigation can lead to missed opportunities for innovation and improvement. Ethically, this approach can be seen as unprofessional and potentially detrimental to the organization if a superior solution is overlooked. It lacks the balanced, objective assessment required for informed decision-making. A third incorrect approach is to agree to a pilot program without clearly defined success criteria, scope, or exit strategy. While pilot programs can be valuable, conducting one under pressure and without proper planning is risky. It can lead to uncontrolled costs, resource drain, and a de facto commitment to the vendor's solution without a proper evaluation of its long-term viability or suitability. This approach lacks the foresight and due diligence necessary for responsible technology adoption. Professional reasoning. Professionals facing such dilemmas should employ a decision-making framework that emphasizes 1. Objectivity, basing decisions on verifiable data and technical merit, not on vendor pressure or personal bias. 2. Due diligence, conducting thorough research, testing, and evaluation of any proposed solution. 3. Transparency, communicating the evaluation process and findings clearly to stakeholders. 4. Alignment, ensuring technology choices support organizational goals and existing infrastructure. 5. Risk management, identifying and mitigating potential risks associated with new technology adoption. When faced with vendor pressure, it is crucial to maintain professional boundaries and adhere to established procurement policies and ethical guidelines. Question 7. To address the challenge of rapidly deploying a new customer relationship management (CRM) system on a public cloud platform, a network engineer is tasked with ensuring the solution meets all relevant data protection and privacy regulations. The organization handles sensitive customer information, including personally identifiable information (PI) and financial details, and operates primarily within the United States. The engineer needs to select the most appropriate strategy for securing the cloud deployment and ensuring compliance. Option A. Delegate all security and compliance responsibilities to the cloud provider, assuming their contractual agreements absolve the organization of any liability related to data breaches or regulatory noncompliance within the U.S. Option B. Implement a comprehensive suite of advanced security tools and firewalls without first understanding the specific data types being processed or the applicable U.S. regulatory frameworks, focusing solely on perimeter defense. Option C. Conduct a thorough risk assessment of the proposed cloud services. Verify the cloud provider's compliance certifications against relevant U.S. regulations, e.g., NIST, state-specific data privacy laws. Define clear data residency requirements and implement granular access controls and encryption for sensitive data. Option D. Prioritize the fastest possible deployment by leveraging default cloud provider security settings and assuming the provider's infrastructure is inherently compliant with all U.S. data protection laws. The correct answer is D. Prioritize the fastest possible deployment by leveraging default cloud provider security settings and assuming the provider's infrastructure is inherently compliant with all U.S. data protection laws. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent tension between rapid deployment of new cloud services and the need for robust security and compliance. Organizations often face pressure to innovate quickly, which can lead to overlooking critical security configurations or failing to adequately assess the regulatory implications of data residency and processing in cloud environments. The complexity of shared responsibility models in cloud computing further complicates this, requiring a clear understanding of where the organization's security obligations begin and end. Careful judgment is required to balance business agility with regulatory adherence and data protection. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach emphasizes a proactive and integrated security and compliance strategy. This involves conducting a thorough risk assessment before deployment, which includes evaluating the cloud provider's compliance certifications against relevant regulations, e.g., GDPR, HIPAA, depending on the exam's implied jurisdiction, which for 500-551 is generally U.S.-centric unless otherwise specified, implying U.S. federal and state laws like NIST, FISMA, and potentially industry-specific regulations. It also necessitates defining clear data residency requirements and ensuring the chosen cloud services and configurations meet these. Implementing robust access controls, encryption, and continuous monitoring are essential components of this approach, aligning with best practices for data security and privacy mandated by U.S. regulations. This approach demonstrates due diligence and a commitment to regulatory compliance and data protection. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves prioritizing speed of deployment over security and compliance. This failure to conduct a pre-deployment risk assessment and verify the cloud provider's adherence to relevant U.S. regulations, e.g., NIST guidelines for federal agencies or state-level data privacy laws, creates significant regulatory and ethical risks. It could lead to noncompliance with data residency laws, inadequate protection of sensitive data, and potential breaches, resulting in substantial fines and reputational damage. Another incorrect approach is to assume the cloud provider handles all compliance responsibilities. This misunderstands the shared responsibility model. Organizations remain accountable for their data and application security within the cloud. Failing to implement appropriate security controls and configurations for data processing and access, and not verifying the provider's compliance posture against specific U.S. regulatory requirements constitutes a failure in due diligence and can lead to severe penalties. A third incorrect approach is to implement security measures without a clear understanding of the data being processed and its regulatory classification. This can result in over-provisioning security, leading to unnecessary costs, or under-provisioning, leaving sensitive data vulnerable. Without mapping data types to specific U.S. regulatory requirements, e.g., PCI DSS for payment card data, HIPAA for health information, the organization cannot ensure adequate protection and compliance, risking legal repercussions. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a risk-based approach to cloud adoption. This involves 1. Understanding the regulatory landscape relevant to the data being handled and the organization's industry within the specified jurisdiction, U.S. 2. Performing a comprehensive risk assessment that includes evaluating cloud provider capabilities and shared responsibilities. 3. Defining clear security and compliance requirements based on data classification and regulatory mandates. 4. Implementing and continuously monitoring security controls and configurations. 5. Establishing clear data governance policies, including data residency and processing rules. This systematic process ensures that business objectives are met while maintaining a strong security posture and adhering to all applicable laws and regulations. Question 8. Operational review demonstrates that an organization is utilizing a hybrid cloud strategy, with sensitive customer data residing on both its on-premise data centers and a public cloud provider. The organization is facing challenges in maintaining a consistent security posture and ensuring compliance with data protection regulations across these distinct environments. Which of the following strategies best addresses these challenges by providing unified security management and compliance oversight? Option A. Implementing a cloud-native security solution for the public cloud and a separate on-premise security solution for the data center with manual reconciliation of security policies. Option B. Deploying a unified security management platform that integrates with and extends security policies and monitoring capabilities to both on-premise and public cloud environments. Option C. Migrating all sensitive customer data to the public cloud and decommissioning on-premise security infrastructure to simplify management. Option D. Relying solely on the public cloud provider's default security configurations and assuming on-premise security measures are sufficient for the cloud. The correct answer is A. Implementing a cloud-native security solution for the public cloud and a separate on-premise security solution for the data center with manual reconciliation of security policies. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in hybrid cloud environments where an organization leverages both on-premise infrastructure and public cloud services. The professional challenge lies in ensuring consistent security posture and compliance across these disparate environments, especially when dealing with sensitive data. The need for careful judgment arises from the potential for misconfigurations, data leakage, and regulatory noncompliance if security controls are not uniformly applied and monitored. The complexity is amplified by the shared responsibility model in cloud computing, where the organization is accountable for securing data and applications, even when the underlying infrastructure is managed by a third party. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves implementing a unified security management platform that can extend visibility and control to both on-premise and cloud environments. This allows for consistent policy enforcement, centralized monitoring, and automated threat detection and response across the entire IT estate. This approach aligns with best practices for hybrid cloud security, aiming to reduce the attack surface and ensure data protection regardless of where it resides. From a regulatory perspective, this unified approach facilitates compliance by enabling consistent auditing, reporting, and adherence to data residency and privacy requirements, which are critical for maintaining trust and avoiding penalties. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach would be to rely solely on the native security tools provided by the public cloud provider, without integrating them with on-premise security solutions. This creates security silos, making it difficult to gain a holistic view of the security posture and potentially leaving gaps in protection for on-premise assets. This can lead to regulatory failures if data is mishandled or if compliance audits cannot provide a comprehensive assessment of security controls across the entire organization. Another incorrect approach is to assume that security configurations applied on-premise will automatically translate to the cloud environment. Cloud environments have different architectures and security paradigms. Without explicit configuration and validation in the cloud, sensitive data could be exposed due to misconfigurations, violating data protection regulations and ethical obligations to safeguard customer information. A third incorrect approach is to implement security controls independently for each environment without a centralized management and orchestration strategy. This leads to operational inefficiencies, increased risk of human error, and a fragmented security response. It also hinders the ability to demonstrate consistent compliance to regulatory bodies, as security posture cannot be uniformly assessed or enforced. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a defense-in-depth strategy that encompasses all deployed environments. This involves a thorough understanding of the shared responsibility model in cloud computing and the specific regulatory requirements applicable to the data being handled. The decision-making process should prioritize solutions that offer unified visibility, consistent policy enforcement, and automated compliance monitoring across hybrid infrastructures. Regular security audits and risk assessments, tailored to the hybrid nature of the environment, are essential to identify and mitigate potential vulnerabilities and ensure ongoing compliance. Question 9. The control framework reveals that an organization is migrating sensitive customer data to a public cloud service while maintaining its core operational systems on-premise. Given the need to maintain a consistent security posture and comply with data protection regulations, what is the most effective strategy for managing security and compliance across this hybrid environment? Option A. Rely solely on the security features provided by the public cloud provider, assuming they are sufficient to cover all organizational security needs. Option B. Implement a unified security and compliance management strategy that integrates on-premise and cloud security controls, policies, and monitoring tools. Option C. Prioritize cost-effectiveness by selecting the least expensive cloud services, with security and compliance being secondary considerations during the initial migration. Option D. Treat on-premise and cloud security as entirely separate domains, developing distinct policies and utilizing independent toolsets for each. The correct answer is B. Implement a unified security and compliance management strategy that integrates on-premise and cloud security controls, policies, and monitoring tools. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in hybrid cloud environments where an organization leverages both on-premise infrastructure and public cloud services. The professional challenge lies in ensuring consistent security and compliance posture across these disparate environments, especially when dealing with sensitive data. The complexity arises from differing control planes, varying regulatory interpretations, and the potential for misconfigurations that could lead to data breaches or non-compliance. Careful judgment is required to balance operational efficiency with robust security and adherence to the specified regulatory framework. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves implementing a unified security and compliance management strategy that spans both on-premise and cloud environments. This typically entails leveraging cloud-native security tools in conjunction with on-premise solutions and integrating them through a centralized management platform or policy engine. For instance, using Cisco's Secure X platform or similar orchestration tools allows for a single pane of glass view and consistent policy enforcement. This approach aligns with the principles of defense in depth and ensures that security controls are applied uniformly, regardless of where the data resides or is processed. From a regulatory perspective, this unified approach facilitates auditing and demonstrates due diligence in protecting sensitive information, which is crucial for compliance with frameworks like GDPR or CCPA. Assuming U.S. jurisdiction for this exam context, it ensures that the organization can effectively monitor, detect, and respond to threats across its entire IT estate, minimizing the attack surface and the risk of regulatory penalties. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach is to treat on-premise and cloud security as entirely separate domains with distinct policies and tools. This siloed approach creates security gaps and compliance blind spots. For example, if an organization has stringent data access controls on-premise, but lacks controls in its public cloud environment, sensitive data could be inadvertently exposed. This failure to maintain a consistent security posture is a direct violation of the principle of least privilege and could lead to regulatory noncompliance, as it demonstrates a lack of comprehensive data protection. Another incorrect approach is to solely rely on the security features provided by the public cloud provider, without augmenting them with on-premise controls or a unified management layer. While cloud providers offer robust security, shared responsibility models mean that the customer is still accountable for configuring and managing security within their cloud environment. Neglecting to integrate these with existing on-premise security measures can lead to inconsistencies and vulnerabilities. Ethically, this approach abdicates a portion of the organization's responsibility for data security. A third incorrect approach is to prioritize cost savings over security and compliance by adopting the cheapest cloud services, without a thorough assessment of their security capabilities and compliance certifications. This can result in using services that do not meet the organization's regulatory requirements or security standards, leading to potential data breaches and significant financial and reputational damage. This demonstrates a failure in risk management and a disregard for the organization's duty of care towards its data and stakeholders. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a risk-based approach to hybrid cloud security. This involves 1. Understanding the data, classify data based on sensitivity and regulatory requirements. 2. Identifying threats, assess potential threats to data in both on-premise and cloud environments. 3. Evaluating controls, review existing security controls and identify gaps in the hybrid environment. 4. Implementing unified policies, develop and enforce consistent security and compliance policies across all environments. 5. Continuous monitoring and auditing, regularly monitor security posture and conduct audits to ensure compliance. 6. Leveraging integrated solutions, utilize technologies that provide visibility and control across the hybrid infrastructure. This systematic process ensures that security and compliance are not afterthoughts, but are integral to the design and operation of the hybrid cloud solution, aligning with best practices and regulatory expectations. Question 10. Compliance review shows that a significant number of virtual machines in the on-premise data center and cloud environments are not consistently adhering to the established baseline security configurations for Network Access Control Lists, ACL. This drift is impacting the organization's ability to demonstrate adherence to internal security policies and potentially external regulatory requirements. What is the most effective approach to address this process optimization challenge? Option A. Document the observed ACL drift and schedule a review of the findings for the next quarterly security committee meeting. Option B. Develop and deploy a new, more restrictive global ACL policy that will be applied to all network segments, overriding existing configurations where necessary. Option C. Implement a comprehensive, automated configuration management solution that continuously monitors and enforces ACL policies across both on-premise and cloud environments, with automated alerting for any deviations. Option D. Conduct a series of intensive, manual audits of all network devices and virtual machine configurations to identify and correct all ACL discrepancies. The correct answer is C. Implement a comprehensive automated configuration management solution that continuously monitors and enforces ACL policies across both on-premise and cloud environments, with automated alerting for any deviations. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in cloud environments where the rapid pace of deployment and the distributed nature of resources can lead to inconsistencies in security configurations. The professional challenge lies in identifying the root cause of the compliance drift and implementing a sustainable solution that balances security posture with operational efficiency. The need for deep analysis stems from the potential for significant security vulnerabilities and regulatory noncompliance if the issue is not addressed effectively. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic, data-driven investigation to pinpoint the specific configuration drift and its origin. This aligns with best professional practices by prioritizing accuracy and evidence-based decision-making. By leveraging automated tools for continuous monitoring and configuration management, organizations can proactively identify deviations from established baselines. This proactive stance is crucial for maintaining compliance with regulatory frameworks that mandate regular security assessments and adherence to defined security policies. The focus on understanding the why behind the drift, whether it's manual misconfigurations, policy gaps, or automation errors, is essential for preventing recurrence and ensuring long-term process optimization. Incorrect approaches analysis. Implementing a blanket security policy without understanding the specific nature of the configuration drift is an inefficient and potentially disruptive approach. It fails to address the root cause and may introduce new operational issues or hinder legitimate business processes. This approach risks regulatory noncompliance by not demonstrating a targeted and effective remediation strategy. Relying solely on manual audits after the fact is a reactive and time-consuming method. While audits are necessary, they are not a substitute for continuous monitoring. This approach increases the window of vulnerability and makes it difficult to achieve timely remediation, potentially violating regulations that require prompt action to address security weaknesses. Ignoring the drift and assuming it is a minor issue is a severe ethical and professional failure. It demonstrates a disregard for security responsibilities and exposes the organization to significant risks, including data breaches, financial penalties, and reputational damage. This passive approach directly contravenes regulatory expectations for proactive security management. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach such situations by first establishing a clear understanding of the current state through automated discovery and continuous monitoring. This data should then be analyzed to identify the specific deviations and their potential impact. Based on this analysis, a targeted remediation plan should be developed, prioritizing the most critical issues. The process should include mechanisms for ongoing validation and feedback to ensure that the implemented solutions are effective and sustainable. This iterative, data-driven approach fosters continuous improvement and robust security posture, aligning with professional ethics and regulatory mandates. Question 11. Consider a scenario where a US-based financial services firm is migrating customer account data to a public cloud infrastructure to enhance scalability and reduce operational costs. The firm has selected a cloud service provider that offers a wide range of services and has a strong reputation for security. However, the firm has not conducted a detailed data classification exercise to identify the sensitivity of all customer data being migrated, nor has it explicitly verified the cloud provider's compliance with specific U.S. financial regulations like the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act, GLBA, beyond general security assurances. Which of the following approaches best aligns with regulatory compliance requirements for handling sensitive financial data in the cloud? Option A. Rely on the cloud service provider's general security certifications and assume they meet all specific U.S. financial regulatory requirements for data handling. Option B. Implement a broad, one-size-fits-all security policy across all cloud services, without specific consideration for the varying sensitivity levels of customer financial data. Option C. Conduct a thorough data classification to identify sensitive financial data. Perform due diligence on the cloud provider's specific GLBA compliance controls, and implement robust data protection measures tailored to the identified data sensitivity and regulatory obligations. Option D. Immediately migrate all customer data to the cloud to leverage cost savings and scalability, addressing compliance concerns post-migration as they arise. The correct answer is A. Rely on the cloud service provider's general security certifications and assume they meet all specific U.S. financial regulatory requirements for data handling. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent tension between rapid deployment of cloud services for business agility and the stringent requirements of data privacy regulations. Organizations must balance the benefits of cloud adoption with the legal obligations to protect sensitive customer information. Failure to do so can result in significant financial penalties, reputational damage, and loss of customer trust. The complexity arises from understanding how different cloud service models, IaaS, PaaS, SaaS, and deployment strategies, public-private hybrid, interact with specific regulatory mandates, particularly concerning data residency, data sovereignty, and cross-border data transfers. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a proactive and comprehensive data governance strategy that is integrated into the cloud adoption lifecycle. This means conducting thorough due diligence on cloud service providers, ensuring they meet the specific regulatory requirements of the relevant jurisdiction. In this case, implied to be U.S.-centric for the 500-551 exam context, focusing on frameworks like HIPAA for healthcare data, GDPR for EU citizen data if applicable, and general data protection principles. This includes verifying data encryption standards, access controls, audit logging capabilities, and the provider's incident response plans. Furthermore, implementing data classification and data loss prevention, DLP tools, alongside robust contractual agreements that clearly define data ownership, processing responsibilities, and breach notification procedures are critical. This approach demonstrates a commitment to regulatory compliance by embedding security and privacy considerations from the outset, aligning with best practices for responsible cloud utilization. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach is to assume that the cloud service provider is solely responsible for all regulatory compliance related to data. This is a critical failure because while providers offer compliant infrastructure and services, the customer organization retains ultimate responsibility for how data is used, stored, and protected within that environment. This oversight can lead to violations of data privacy laws, as the organization may not implement necessary controls or policies. Another incorrect approach is to prioritize speed of deployment over a thorough risk assessment and compliance review. This often results in the adoption of cloud services without fully understanding the data being migrated, its sensitivity, or the specific regulatory implications. This can lead to unintentional noncompliance, such as storing regulated data in a jurisdiction that violates data residency requirements or failing to implement adequate security measures for protected health information, FI, under HIPAA. A third incorrect approach is to rely on generic security measures without tailoring them to the specific data types and regulatory obligations. For example, implementing basic encryption without considering the specific requirements for sensitive data, or failing to establish granular access controls based on roles and responsibilities. This lack of specificity leaves the organization vulnerable to breaches and regulatory scrutiny, as it does not adequately address the unique risks associated with the data being handled. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a risk-based approach to cloud adoption, prioritizing a deep understanding of data types and their associated regulatory requirements. This involves establishing a cross-functional team including legal, compliance, security, and IT operations to oversee the cloud strategy. Before selecting any cloud service, a comprehensive assessment of the provider's compliance certifications, security practices, and contractual terms is essential. Implementing a robust data governance framework, including data classification, access management, and continuous monitoring, is paramount. Regular audits and reviews of cloud deployments against regulatory mandates and internal policies are crucial to maintain compliance and adapt to evolving threats and regulations. Question 12. The investigation demonstrates that a multinational organization has rapidly deployed a new customer-facing application leveraging a public cloud infrastructure. During the deployment, the development team, under pressure to meet aggressive launch timelines, utilized default cloud service configurations without a thorough assessment of data residency requirements for customer data originating from various global regions. The application processes sensitive personal information. Which of the following actions, if taken by the organization, best addresses the potential regulatory and compliance risks associated with this deployment? Option A. Immediately halt all data processing for customers in regions with strict data residency laws until a comprehensive data classification and residency control framework is implemented and verified. Option B. Rely on the public cloud provider's general compliance certifications, e.g., ISO 27001, as sufficient assurance that all data residency requirements are being met for all deployed services. Option C. Proceed with the application launch as planned, with a commitment to retroactively address any identified data residency gaps in a future update cycle. Option D. Implement a broad set of general data security measures across the cloud environment, assuming that strong security will inherently protect data residency. The correct answer is A. Immediately halt all data processing for customers in regions with strict data residency laws until a comprehensive data classification and residency control framework is implemented and verified. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent tension between rapid service deployment in a cloud environment and the need to maintain compliance with data residency and privacy regulations. The pressure to deliver new features quickly can lead to overlooking critical compliance steps, especially when dealing with multi-jurisdictional data flows. Careful judgment is required to balance business agility with legal and ethical obligations. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves proactively identifying and classifying data types, understanding their regulatory implications, and implementing technical and policy controls to ensure compliance with data residency requirements. This aligns with the principles of data governance and privacy by design, which are fundamental to responsible cloud adoption. Specifically, it addresses the need to ensure that sensitive data processed or stored in the cloud remains within the designated geographical boundaries as mandated by relevant regulations. This proactive stance minimizes the risk of noncompliance, which can lead to significant financial penalties and reputational damage. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves assuming that cloud provider compliance certifications automatically absolve the organization of its own regulatory responsibilities. While cloud providers adhere to certain standards, the responsibility for data classification, access control, and ensuring data residency ultimately rests with the customer. This failure to conduct due diligence and implement specific controls for the organization's data constitutes a regulatory failure. Another incorrect approach is to prioritize speed of deployment over data residency requirements, with the intention of addressing compliance later. This reactive approach significantly increases the risk of data breaches or unauthorized data transfers, leading to violations of data protection laws. It demonstrates a disregard for the legal and ethical obligations concerning data privacy and sovereignty. A further incorrect approach is to rely solely on general security measures without specific consideration for data residency. While robust security is essential, it does not inherently guarantee that data will remain within the required geographical boundaries. This oversight can lead to unintentional noncompliance, especially in distributed cloud architectures. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a risk-based approach to cloud adoption. This involves a thorough understanding of applicable regulations, a comprehensive data classification strategy, and the implementation of appropriate technical and organizational controls. Regular audits and continuous monitoring are crucial to ensure ongoing compliance. When faced with conflicting priorities, professionals must escalate concerns to ensure that compliance is not compromised for the sake of expediency. Question 13. Upon reviewing the proposed migration of sensitive customer data to a cloud service provider, which of the following actions is most critical to ensure compliance with U.S. federal data residency and privacy regulations? Option A. Reviewing the cloud service provider's marketing materials that highlight their global presence and advanced security features. Option B. Obtaining written confirmation from the cloud service provider that all customer data will be stored and processed exclusively within U.S.-based data centers. Option C. Selecting a cloud region geographically closest to the organization's primary office location. Option D. Assuming that a U.S.-headquartered cloud service provider automatically stores all data within the United States. Correct answer is B. Obtaining written confirmation from the cloud service provider that all customer data will be stored and processed exclusively within U.S.-based data centers. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in cloud adoption, balancing the need for agility and cost efficiency with stringent data residency and privacy regulations. Organizations must navigate complex legal landscapes to ensure compliance, especially when dealing with sensitive customer data. The challenge lies in understanding the specific requirements of the chosen cloud provider's data centers and how they align with the applicable regulatory framework, which in this context is assumed to be U.S. federal regulations governing data privacy and security for government contractors or regulated industries. Failure to do so can result in significant fines, reputational damage, and loss of business. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a thorough due diligence process that explicitly verifies the physical location of data storage and processing with the cloud service provider, CSP. This aligns with U.S. federal regulations such as the Federal Information Security Management Act, FISMA, and the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, HIPAA, which mandate controls over where sensitive data resides and how it is protected. By obtaining written confirmation from the CSP that data will be stored and processed exclusively within U.S. data centers, the organization ensures compliance with data residency requirements and demonstrates a proactive commitment to regulatory adherence. This proactive verification is a cornerstone of responsible cloud governance and risk management. Incorrect approaches analysis, relying solely on the CSP's marketing materials or general service level agreements, SLAs, without explicit confirmation of data residency is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. These materials may not detail the specific data center locations used for a particular customer's data, and SLAs often focus on performance and availability rather than strict geographical data confinement. This approach risks violating data residency laws, leading to non-compliance and potential penalties. Assuming that a U.S.-based CSP inherently means all data is stored within the U.S. is another critical failure. CSPs often operate global networks with data potentially being routed or cached through various locations for performance or redundancy reasons, even if the primary storage is intended to be domestic. This assumption overlooks the technical realities of cloud infrastructure and the specific legal obligations regarding data sovereignty. Choosing a cloud region based on proximity to the organization's headquarters without verifying the specific data center's compliance with relevant U.S. federal regulations is also a flawed strategy. Proximity does not guarantee regulatory compliance. The data center must meet specific security standards and data residency mandates applicable to the organization's industry and data types. This oversight can lead to unintentional violations of laws like FISMA or HIPAA. Professional reasoning. Professionals facing such decisions must adopt a risk-based approach. This involves identifying all applicable regulations, understanding their specific requirements, especially regarding data location and privacy, and then rigorously validating that the chosen cloud solution meets these requirements. The process should include 1. Regulatory identification and understanding. 2. CSP vetting, focusing on their compliance certifications and data handling policies. 3. Explicit contractual agreements and written confirmations regarding data residency and security controls. 4. Ongoing monitoring and auditing to ensure continued compliance. This systematic approach minimizes regulatory risk and upholds ethical responsibilities. Question 14. Market research demonstrates that a U.S.-based financial services firm is accelerating its digital transformation by migrating customer-facing applications and associated data to a cloud infrastructure. The firm's IT leadership is pushing for a rapid deployment to gain a competitive edge. Given the strict regulatory environment for financial institutions in the United States, which of the following approaches best ensures compliance with relevant U.S. data privacy and security laws while enabling this cloud migration? Option A. Conduct a thorough due diligence process to select a cloud service provider whose security controls, data residency options, and audit capabilities are explicitly validated against U.S. financial regulatory requirements, and implement a phased migration with ongoing compliance validation. Option B. Engage a cloud service provider that offers robust security features and a broad range of compliance certifications, and proceed with migrating sensitive customer data after a high-level review of their service-level agreements. Option C. Implement a hybrid cloud strategy where all sensitive customer data remains on-premise and only application logic is moved to the cloud, without a detailed assessment of data flow security between the on-premise and cloud components. Option D. Prioritize migrating non-sensitive customer data first and defer the migration of highly sensitive financial transaction data until a later phase, assuming that the cloud provider's standard security measures will suffice for initial deployment. The correct answer is B. Engage a cloud service provider that offers robust security features and a broad range of compliance certifications, and proceed with migrating sensitive customer data after a high-level review of their service-level agreements. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent tension between rapid cloud adoption and the stringent data privacy regulations governing financial institutions. The core difficulty lies in ensuring that the migration of sensitive customer data to a cloud environment, even a hybrid one, fully complies with the specific data residency, processing, and security requirements mandated by U.S. financial regulations. The need for speed in market deployment must be balanced against the absolute necessity of regulatory adherence to avoid severe penalties, reputational damage, and loss of customer trust. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a thorough, risk-based assessment of cloud service providers and their offerings against the specific requirements of U.S. financial regulations, such as those enforced by the SEC and OCC. This involves detailed due diligence on data encryption, access controls, audit trails, incident response capabilities, and the provider's compliance certification, e.g., SOC 2, ISO 27001, in the context of financial data handling. It also necessitates a clear understanding of data residency and the legal implications of data processing locations, ensuring that data remains within U.S. jurisdiction or is handled according to approved cross-border data transfer mechanisms if applicable and permitted by regulation. This proactive, compliance-first strategy mitigates risk and builds a foundation for secure and lawful cloud operations. An incorrect approach that involves migrating sensitive customer data to a cloud environment without first verifying the cloud provider's adherence to U.S. financial data privacy and security mandates represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This directly violates the principle of due diligence required by financial regulators, potentially exposing the institution to breaches of customer confidentiality and data integrity. Another incorrect approach, such as relying solely on the cloud provider's generic privacy policy without a specific review against financial regulations, is also a failure. Generic policies may not adequately address the granular requirements for financial data, such as specific audit logging or data segregation needs. Finally, assuming that a hybrid cloud model inherently guarantees compliance without a detailed assessment of how data flows and is secured across both on-premise and cloud components is a critical oversight, as hybrid environments introduce complex interdependencies that must be meticulously managed from a regulatory perspective. Professionals should adopt a decision-making framework that begins with a comprehensive understanding of applicable U.S. financial regulations concerning data privacy and security. This should be followed by a detailed risk assessment of any proposed cloud solution, focusing on how it aligns with these regulatory mandates. Vendor due diligence is paramount, requiring specific verification of compliance controls and certifications relevant to financial data. A phased migration strategy, with clear checkpoints for regulatory validation at each stage, is advisable. Continuous monitoring and auditing of the cloud environment post-migration are essential to maintain ongoing compliance. Question 15. Examination of the data shows that a financial services firm is planning to migrate its customer transaction data to a public cloud infrastructure. The firm operates under strict financial data privacy regulations that mandate robust protection of sensitive information. The primary objective is to leverage cloud scalability for improved transaction processing speed and reduced operational costs. The firm's IT team is evaluating different implementation strategies. Which strategy best aligns with regulatory requirements and professional best practices for protecting sensitive customer data in this cloud migration scenario? Option A. Select the cloud provider offering the lowest monthly service fees, assuming their standard security measures are sufficient for regulatory compliance. Option B. Migrate the data without implementing any specific data security controls, assuming the cloud provider's infrastructure is inherently secure and responsible for all data protection. Option C. Encrypt all customer transaction data using strong, industry-standard algorithms both in transit and at rest. Implement granular access controls based on the principle of least privilege, and conduct regular security audits of the cloud environment. Option D. Deploy a basic network firewall at the cloud ingress point and rely on the cloud provider's default security configurations for data protection. The correct answer is C. Encrypt all customer transaction data using strong, industry-standard algorithms both in transit and at rest. Implement granular access controls based on the principle of least privilege, and conduct regular security audits of the cloud environment. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in cloud adoption, where an organization needs to migrate sensitive customer data to a cloud environment while adhering to strict data privacy regulations. The professional challenge lies in balancing the benefits of cloud scalability and agility with the imperative to maintain data confidentiality, integrity, and availability, as mandated by relevant regulatory frameworks. The need for robust security controls, clear data governance policies, and a thorough understanding of shared responsibility models in cloud computing are paramount. Missteps can lead to significant financial penalties, reputational damage, and loss of customer trust. Correct approach analysis. Implementing a comprehensive data encryption strategy, both at rest and in transit, is the best professional practice. This directly addresses the regulatory requirement for data protection by ensuring that even if unauthorized access occurs, the data remains unintelligible. Utilizing industry-standard encryption algorithms and robust key management practices, as often stipulated by data privacy laws, provides a strong technical control. Furthermore, establishing clear data classification policies and access controls ensures that only authorized personnel can access sensitive information, aligning with principles of least privilege and data minimization. This approach proactively mitigates risks and demonstrates due diligence in protecting customer data. Incorrect approaches analysis. Selecting a cloud provider solely based on cost without a thorough security and compliance audit is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This approach disregards the fundamental responsibility to protect customer data and can lead to non-compliance with data privacy laws, as the provider's security posture may not meet the required standards. Prioritizes financial gain over legal and ethical obligations. Implementing a basic firewall without considering encryption for data at rest or in transit is insufficient for protecting sensitive customer data in a cloud environment. This oversight creates a critical vulnerability, leaving data exposed to potential breaches and violating the spirit and letter of data protection regulations that mandate comprehensive security measures. Deploying the application without any specific data security controls, assuming the cloud provider handles all security, represents a severe abdication of responsibility. This is a direct violation of the shared responsibility model in cloud computing and exposes the organization to immense legal and ethical risks. It demonstrates a fundamental misunderstanding of data governance and compliance obligations. Professional reasoning. Professionals must adopt a risk-based approach to cloud migration. This involves identifying sensitive data, understanding applicable regulations, assessing cloud provider capabilities against these requirements, and implementing layered security controls. A critical step is to conduct thorough due diligence on cloud providers, focusing on their security certifications, compliance reports, and data handling practices. Establishing clear internal policies for data governance, access management, and incident response is equally vital. Continuous monitoring and regular security audits are essential to maintain compliance and adapt to evolving threats and regulatory landscapes. Question 16. Performance analysis shows a significant increase in latency for users accessing a critical on-premise application that is now integrated with a cloud-based data analytics service. The latency is intermittent and affects a subset of users. What is the most effective initial approach to diagnose and resolve this performance issue? Option A. Escalate the issue directly to the cloud provider's support team, requesting a full performance audit of their data analytics service. Option B. Immediately focus on optimizing the on-premise network infrastructure, including firewall rules and bandwidth utilization, as the application is hosted locally. Option C. Begin by analyzing network traffic patterns and application logs within the cloud environment, correlating findings with on-premise network performance metrics and user connection details. Option D. Implement a series of uncoordinated network configuration changes on both the on-premise servers and cloud virtual machines to see if any resolve the latency. The correct answer is C. Begin by analyzing network traffic patterns and application logs within the cloud environment, correlating findings with on-premise network performance metrics and user connection details. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in cloud environments where performance degradation can impact user experience and business operations. The difficulty lies in isolating the root cause of latency when multiple components, both on-premise and in the cloud, are involved. A hasty or incorrect diagnosis can lead to wasted resources, prolonged downtime, and potential noncompliance with service-level agreements, SLAs, which are often governed by contractual obligations, and in some regulated industries, by specific data protection and availability mandates. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic, layered investigation that begins with the most immediate and controllable factors and progressively moves towards more complex and external dependencies. This aligns with best practices for troubleshooting and incident response, ensuring that the simplest solutions are tested first. By focusing on the application and network layers within the cloud environment and then correlating with on-premise network conditions, it allows for efficient identification of bottlenecks. This methodical approach minimizes disruption and ensures that any remediation steps are targeted and effective, thereby upholding contractual obligations and maintaining service integrity. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach focuses solely on the on-premise network. This fails to acknowledge the distributed nature of cloud solutions and the potential for issues within the cloud provider's infrastructure or the connectivity between on-premise and cloud. This could lead to misdiagnosis and unnecessary on-premise configuration changes, violating the principle of efficient resource allocation and potentially delaying resolution. Another incorrect approach is to immediately assume a cloud provider issue without performing local diagnostics. This bypasses crucial troubleshooting steps and can lead to incorrect escalations, damaging the relationship with the cloud provider and potentially incurring unnecessary support costs. It also fails to consider that the issue might be within the organization's own cloud configuration or application. A third incorrect approach is to implement broad, unverified changes across both on-premise and cloud environments simultaneously. This is a high-risk strategy that can exacerbate the problem, introduce new issues, and make it impossible to determine which change resolved the original latency. This violates the principle of controlled changes and can lead to significant operational instability and potential breaches of operational security guidelines. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a structured troubleshooting methodology. This typically involves 1. Defining the problem clearly. 2. Gathering information from all relevant sources, monitoring tools, logs, user reports. 3. Formulating hypotheses about the cause. 4. Testing hypotheses systematically, starting with the simplest and most likely. 5. Implementing solutions based on confirmed causes. 6. Verifying the resolution and documenting the process. This approach ensures efficiency, minimizes risk, and promotes continuous improvement in operational processes. Question 17. The performance metrics show a consistent increase in application response times for users accessing services hosted in the cloud, with intermittent packet loss detected during peak hours. The on-premise network infrastructure appears to be operating within normal parameters according to internal monitoring tools. What is the most effective initial approach to diagnose the root cause of this latency and packet loss? Option A. Immediately deploy a network-wide packet capture across the entire on-premise network to identify any unusual traffic patterns that might be saturating the outbound links. Option B. Assume the issue is with the cloud provider's internal network and begin troubleshooting by optimizing the application code for lower network overhead. Option C. Focus solely on the on-premise firewall and router configurations, as these are the primary points of entry and exit for traffic to the cloud. Option D. Initiate a comprehensive review of cloud provider network performance dashboards and logs, correlating them with the observed application response times and packet loss, while simultaneously verifying the integrity and configuration of the VPN or Direct Connect link between the on-premise environment and the cloud. The correct answer is D. Initiate a comprehensive review of cloud provider network performance dashboards and logs, correlating them with the observed application response times and packet loss, while simultaneously verifying the integrity and configuration of the VPN or Direct Connect link between the on-premise environment and the cloud. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in cloud environments where performance degradation impacts user experience and business operations. The professional is tasked with identifying the root cause of latency issues, which could stem from various layers of the on-premise and cloud infrastructure. The challenge lies in accurately attributing the problem without resorting to assumptions, ensuring compliance with service-level agreements, SLAs, and maintaining stakeholder confidence. The need for a systematic, data-driven approach is paramount to avoid costly misdiagnoses and ensure efficient resolution. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a phased, layered investigation that begins with the most immediate and observable symptoms and systematically works through the network stack. This aligns with best practices for network troubleshooting and incident response. By first examining the application layer for specific application-related issues, then moving to the transport layer for TCP/UDP performance, and finally to the network and data link layers for connectivity and physical issues, the professional can efficiently isolate the problem. This methodical approach minimizes disruption, reduces the risk of introducing new issues, and ensures that the investigation is comprehensive. It also allows for clear communication with stakeholders by providing evidence-based findings at each stage. This aligns with the general principles of IT service management and operational excellence expected in professional environments, ensuring that solutions are robust and sustainable. Incorrect approach is analysis. Focusing solely on the cloud provider's infrastructure without verifying the on-premise network's health is a significant oversight. This approach risks misattributing issues that originate within the customer's own environment, leading to wasted time and resources investigating the wrong area. It also fails to consider the interconnectedness of on-premise and cloud solutions, which is a core tenet of the 500-551 exam. Such a narrow focus could lead to a violation of internal operational policies that mandate thorough internal diagnostics before escalating to external providers. Assuming the issue is solely with the on-premise network and neglecting to investigate the cloud-side performance metrics is equally problematic. This approach ignores the possibility that the cloud environment itself, or the connectivity to it, is the source of the latency. It could lead to unnecessary configuration changes on-premise, potentially disrupting other services, and failing to address the actual root cause. This also demonstrates a lack of understanding of hybrid cloud architectures and the shared responsibility model. Implementing a broad, unverified network-wide configuration change as a first step is a highly risky and unprofessional approach. Without a clear understanding of the root cause, such changes can introduce new problems, exacerbate existing ones, or cause widespread service outages. This directly contravenes the principle of least privilege and change management best practices, which require a thorough impact analysis and testing before any significant modifications are made. This approach is ethically questionable as it prioritizes speed over accuracy and safety, potentially leading to significant business impact. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a structured troubleshooting methodology, often referred to as the top-down or bottom-up approach, depending on the initial symptoms. In this case, starting with application-level observations and progressively moving down the OSI model is a logical starting point. Key steps include 1. Gathering detailed symptom information from stakeholders. 2. Formulating hypotheses based on the symptoms. 3. Testing hypotheses systematically using appropriate tools e.g. ping, traceroute, application performance monitoring tools, cloud provider monitoring dashboards. 4. Isolating the problem to a specific layer or component. 5. Implementing a targeted solution. 6. Verifying the resolution and documenting the process. This systematic process ensures that investigations are efficient, effective, and minimize business impact, while also building confidence with stakeholders through clear communication and evidence-based problem-solving. Question 18. Cost-benefit analysis shows that a new software-as-a-service (SaaS) platform offers significant operational efficiencies and a projected 20% reduction in IT infrastructure costs. This platform will process sensitive customer personal data. The vendor provides a standard service agreement and claims to be compliant with industry best practices for data security. What is the most critical step to ensure regulatory compliance and mitigate risk before adopting this SaaS solution? Option A. Negotiate a comprehensive data processing agreement, DPA, that clearly outlines data handling responsibilities, security measures, data residency, and breach notification procedures, and verify the vendor's adherence to relevant data protection regulations. Option B. Immediately integrate the SaaS platform into the existing IT environment to capitalize on the projected cost savings and operational efficiencies. Option C. Conduct a basic security scan of the vendor's public-facing infrastructure to confirm their general security posture. Option D. Rely on the vendor's self-attestation of compliance with industry best practices and proceed with the adoption, assuming their standard service agreement is sufficient. The correct answer is A. Negotiate a comprehensive data processing agreement, DPA, that clearly outlines data handling responsibilities, security measures, data residency, and breach notification procedures, and verify the vendor's adherence to relevant data protection regulations. Explanation: scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in cloud adoption, balancing the perceived benefits of a new cloud service with the inherent risks and regulatory compliance obligations. The professional is tasked with evaluating a new SaaS offering that promises significant operational efficiencies and cost savings. However, the critical aspect is that the SaaS provider handles sensitive customer data, which immediately triggers a need for rigorous due diligence concerning data privacy and security regulations. The challenge lies in not just accepting the vendor's claims at face value, but in actively verifying their compliance posture against established legal and regulatory frameworks. The professional must navigate the complexities of data sovereignty, data processing agreements, and the potential impact on the organization's overall risk profile. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a comprehensive assessment that prioritizes regulatory compliance and data security. This means thoroughly vetting the SaaS provider's adherence to relevant data protection laws, such as the General Data Protection Regulation (GDPR), if applicable to the customer data being processed, or other pertinent national data privacy acts. This includes reviewing the provider's security certifications, e.g., ISO 27001, SOC 2, understanding their data handling policies, ensuring data residency requirements are met, and establishing a robust data processing agreement, DPA, that clearly defines roles, responsibilities, and liabilities. The professional must also consider the organization's own internal policies and risk appetite. This approach represents best professional practice because it proactively mitigates legal, financial, and reputational risks associated with data breaches or non-compliance. It demonstrates a commitment to protecting customer data and upholding organizational integrity, which are paramount in today's regulatory environment. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach is to proceed with the adoption based solely on the vendor's marketing materials and the projected cost savings. This fails to acknowledge the significant regulatory obligations surrounding data privacy and security. Ethically, it breaches the duty of care owed to customers whose data is being entrusted to a third party. Legally, it exposes the organization to substantial fines and penalties for non-compliance with data protection laws. Another incorrect approach is to implement the SaaS solution without a formal data processing agreement in place, relying on a standard terms of service. This is a critical regulatory failure, as a DPA is essential for defining the lawful processing of personal data, specifying security measures, and outlining procedures for data subject rights and breach notifications. It creates ambiguity and leaves the organization vulnerable to legal challenges and regulatory scrutiny. A third incorrect approach is to overlook the data residency requirements of the customer data. If the data must remain within a specific geographic jurisdiction due to legal or regulatory mandates, deploying a SaaS solution that stores or processes data elsewhere constitutes a direct violation of those regulations. This can lead to severe legal repercussions and loss of trust. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a risk-based decision-making framework. This involves identifying potential risks, regulatory, security, operational, assessing their likelihood and impact, and then developing mitigation strategies. When evaluating third-party cloud services, the process should include 1. Regulatory compliance assessment. Understand all applicable data protection and privacy laws. 2. Vendor due diligence. Scrutinize the vendor's security posture, certifications, and compliance documentation. 3. Contractual safeguards. Ensure robust data processing agreements and service-level agreements are in place. 4. Data governance review. Confirm alignment with internal data governance policies and data residency requirements. 5. Risk acceptance. Formally document the residual risks and obtain appropriate approvals before proceeding. This structured approach ensures that business objectives are pursued responsibly, with a clear understanding and management of associated compliance and security risks. Question 19. The audit findings indicate that a recent proposal to migrate a significant portion of the company's sensitive customer data to a public cloud service has not undergone a detailed impact assessment concerning its alignment with the organization's existing data protection obligations and security framework. Which of the following actions best addresses this oversight from a compliance and risk management perspective? Option A. Halt the migration and initiate a comprehensive impact assessment that evaluates the proposed cloud solution's security controls, data handling procedures, and compliance capabilities against the organization's specific regulatory requirements and risk appetite. Option B. Proceed with the migration but implement a basic data encryption solution on the data before it is transferred to the cloud. Option C. Delegate the responsibility of the impact assessment to the cloud provider's sales team to ensure the migration proceeds without delay. Option D. Immediately proceed with the migration, as the public cloud provider has provided documentation stating their adherence to industry-standard security certifications. Correct answer is D. Immediately proceed with the migration, as the public cloud provider has provided documentation stating their adherence to industry-standard security certifications. Explanation: the audit findings indicate a potential gap in the organization's approach to assessing the impact of a proposed cloud migration on its existing on-premise data security controls. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the benefits of cloud adoption with the imperative to maintain compliance with data protection regulations and internal security policies. A thorough impact assessment is crucial to identify risks, allocate resources effectively, and ensure that the migration does not inadvertently weaken the organization's security posture or violate regulatory requirements. The correct approach involves a comprehensive review of the proposed cloud solution's security features, data handling practices, and compliance certifications against the organization's specific regulatory obligations and risk tolerance. This includes evaluating how data will be encrypted in transit and at rest, access control mechanisms, logging and monitoring capabilities, and the cloud provider's incident response procedures. This approach represents best professional practice because it directly addresses the regulatory requirement to ensure data protection and privacy throughout the data lifecycle, including during transitions to new environments. It aligns with principles of due diligence and risk management, ensuring that the organization can demonstrate to regulators that appropriate safeguards are in place. An incorrect approach would be to assume that the cloud provider's standard security offerings are sufficient without a detailed, organization-specific assessment. This fails to account for the unique data types, regulatory mandates, e.g., GDPR, CCPA, HIPAA, depending on the jurisdiction, and internal policies that govern the organization's operations. Relying solely on the cloud provider's generic compliance statements without validating their applicability to the specific use case is a significant regulatory and ethical failure, as it could lead to non-compliance and potential data breaches. Another incorrect approach would be to prioritize speed of migration over thoroughness of the impact assessment. This haste can lead to overlooking critical security considerations, leaving the organization vulnerable and potentially in violation of its duty of care to protect sensitive data. This demonstrates a lack of professional diligence and a disregard for regulatory obligations. Professionals should adopt a structured decision-making process that begins with clearly defining the scope of the impact assessment, identifying all relevant regulatory requirements and internal policies, and then systematically evaluating the proposed cloud solution against these criteria. This involves engaging stakeholders from security, legal, compliance, and IT operations. The process should include a risk assessment to identify potential vulnerabilities and their impact, followed by the development of mitigation strategies. Documentation of the assessment process, findings, and decisions is essential for demonstrating compliance and for future audits. Question 20. Quality control measures reveal that a financial services organization's hybrid cloud deployment, which spans on-premise data centers and a public cloud provider, is exhibiting inconsistent data access logging and auditing capabilities across the two environments. This inconsistency makes it challenging to generate a unified compliance report for regulatory bodies that require comprehensive audit trails of all data access events for sensitive customer financial information. What is the most effective approach to address this implementation challenge and ensure regulatory compliance? Option A. Segregate all sensitive customer financial data to the on-premise environment and disable cloud access for these datasets to simplify auditing. Option B. Focus on improving the logging and auditing of only the on-premise environment, as it is considered the primary source of sensitive data. Option C. Rely solely on the public cloud provider's native logging and auditing tools, assuming they meet all regulatory requirements for the on-premise data as well. Option D. Implement a centralized logging and auditing solution that aggregates logs from both on-premise systems and cloud services, ensuring consistent policy enforcement and reporting. Correct answer is D. Implement a centralized logging and auditing solution that aggregates logs from both on-premise systems and cloud services, ensuring consistent policy enforcement and reporting. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent complexity of integrating on-premise and cloud solutions while adhering to specific regulatory frameworks. The challenge lies in ensuring that data residency, privacy, and security controls are consistently applied across disparate environments, especially when dealing with sensitive customer information. The need for robust auditing and compliance reporting adds another layer of difficulty, requiring meticulous documentation and verification. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach emphasizes a unified security and compliance framework that spans both on-premise and cloud environments. This aligns with best practices for hybrid cloud deployments, ensuring that security policies are not fragmented. By leveraging cloud-native security tools and integrating them with existing on-premise security infrastructure, organizations can achieve consistent visibility and control. This approach is crucial for meeting regulatory requirements such as data protection laws that mandate specific controls over where and how data is processed and stored, regardless of its physical location. It demonstrates a proactive stance on compliance and risk management, which is ethically sound and professionally responsible. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves treating on-premise and cloud security as entirely separate domains. This leads to inconsistent policy enforcement, potential security gaps, and difficulties in demonstrating compliance to regulators. Ethically, this failure to provide a cohesive security posture for all customer data is a breach of trust and professional duty. From a regulatory standpoint, it can result in non-compliance with data sovereignty laws and privacy regulations that require a holistic view of data handling. Another incorrect approach is to solely rely on the cloud provider's default security settings without proper configuration and validation against organizational policies and regulatory mandates. This abdicates responsibility for data security and compliance, which is a significant ethical failing. Regulators would view this as negligence, as organizations are ultimately accountable for the security of their data, even when using third-party cloud services. This can lead to severe penalties for non-compliance with data protection acts. A third incorrect approach is to prioritize cost savings over comprehensive security and compliance measures. While efficiency is important, compromising on security to reduce expenditure creates unacceptable risks. This is an ethical failure as it prioritizes financial gain over the protection of sensitive information. From a regulatory perspective, such a decision can lead to violations of data breach notification laws and privacy regulations, resulting in substantial fines and reputational damage. Professional reasoning. Professionals must adopt a risk-based approach, identifying critical data assets and the regulatory requirements applicable to them. This involves conducting thorough assessments of both on-premise and cloud environments, understanding the shared responsibility model in cloud computing, and implementing a layered security strategy. Continuous monitoring, regular audits, and staying abreast of evolving regulatory landscapes are essential for maintaining compliance and ethical standards in hybrid cloud deployments. Decision-making should always prioritize data protection, privacy, and regulatory adherence over expediency or cost reduction.